Alrighty, we are going to talk about the origins of this Carrera slot car. When I was a kid, I would race with my uncle, who I believe is on camera now, Rob Livingston. Rob's like my dad.
Hello.
And we raced on his slot car track. Remind me.
A Revell
Yep.
track.
Mm-hmm.
And we also had a Scalextric hard rubber track. And every time Dave came over, it probably was a different track, different setup. Sometimes it was powered by an almost dead 12-volt car battery. Sometimes it had a gigantic Lionel transformer. It was always improvised, but it always had a lot of amperage.
So one of the cars that we would race, and at the time this car was a slot car. These cars had a lot of different lives, and what was the power that this car had?
This car had a Pitman DC-85 6-volt, which was an extremely amp-hungry motor. It drew, I think, 8 amps when it accelerated, and it had an inline setup, 4.5-to-1 bevel gears, and it was originally conceived as a car that was going to have four-wheel drive. But things happened, that never happened, and eventually it turned into this jalopy racer, and it did not have four-wheel drive. But it had an inline so that it could have four-wheel drive. Most people who built cars with big Pitman padlock motors, as they call them, would build a Sidewinder, because that makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
Not me. I built it so it could be a four-wheel drive with a shaft going forward, shaft going back. In any case, I was just a boy. I didn't know anything about how to design a slot car, but I loved to build. So the body for this car was bought at a flea market in probably 1963 or 62, and I turned it into a modified racer, a cut-down 39 Ford, as I saw at my real home track at Savin Rock in West Haven Speedway, and they raced cars that resembled that. And so I built this replica. It was a static model. It turned into a Pitman 85 race car, and it dominated the tiny little tracks that we raced on in each other's rumpus rooms. It was really good on a short track. A lot of acceleration, as long as it had the amperage. So I always made sure that I dragged along a big power supply so I could beat my friends. And I always did. And we never had formal races. It was more like demolition derby.
So when I was a kid, I would go stay with Rob in Connecticut, and each summer I would go stay with him. We moved away. I lived in Connecticut for a while, then moved here to Pennsylvania, and I lived in a couple different places here in PA. And in the summers, when I was out of school, I would go stay with Rob for a week or so, or 2 weeks, or 3 weeks each summer in Connecticut, in New Haven, or in West Haven. And this was one of the cars at the time that we would drive. And obviously I got attached to the decoration on the car, because when I was able to bring back the 57 Chevys when I worked for Carrera, I had the idea, because, well, I had driven this car so much that I needed to do this car as a Carrera slot car with a made-up livery that is obviously influenced in no small part by this car.
Now, I should point out, this car appears currently, this car's bright white. This car is cream color. This car is very muddy cream color. Now, the reason this white drifted to here, this car was painted in my basement with Tester's shiny white paint, nice and ripply to simulate the dents, and it became very dirty through lots of handling, and the color drifted because it was so covered with fingerprints. The top became cream colored.
Mm-hmm.
So when Dave raced with it as a kid, it really was kind of like this color. Now, this other guy, Shotgun Dave, somehow saw pictures of this car, which got posted on the internet, and he built his own small version, and he took the color even further into the murky area.
Yeah, so this was a car that that this guy Dave built because when this car was released, I told the story about this car. You following me? So
very
there's
important.
3 generations of slot racing ideas going on here over about 60 or so years.
Yes.
Just about.
60 years of history.
So this car influenced this one, and then this car was made for me by this guy Dave to kind of thank me and also Rob basically for influencing the design on the Carrera cars. And I've taken this car all over the U.S. and I've taken it to Germany a number of times. I've taken it. I took it once to the U.K. when I went, and like I said, all over the U.S. when I used to go on trips for Carrera and then for Scalextric when I worked for them. This kind of went with me as kind of a mascot car, and I got to drive it on a lot of different tracks.
And everybody loves that car.
Yeah, everybody loves this car, and it's not exactly the fastest car in the world.
Not exactly.
Definitely not.
It could be the slowest car.
Well, but so anyway, I wanted to tell you because there have been a lot of questions about the '57 Chevy Carreras that come up, especially recently. I've seen a lot of people commenting about how they came to be, why they look this way, where did they come from, the ideas, that sort of thing. So one of them came from this exact car, which was made a long, long, long time ago.
By the way, these are AMT, vintage AMT decals that used to be in what they called the Trophy Series, which was AMT made these customizing kits, 3-in-1 kits, and then they brought out the Trophy Series, which was the pre-war hot rod cars. The 39 to 40 Ford was this plastic model, and those were the decals that came with it. Number 16. So
you can see here, and Dave even made it's the split window car in the back here, and this is all completely from scratch. The ladder frame, it's brass, and little pieces of wood in there, and all kinds of great stuff. So there we are, folks. You wonder where this car came from? The influence of the design? Well, it came from this one. Thanks. I really appreciate you watching. Thanks for the likes, the shares, and there you go. A little bit of slot car news information for you.
The complete history.
Well, it's the complete history as of this morning. Talk to you later. Thanks, folks. Bye-bye.